the Nürburgring and the sun is shining. We've got a few clouds in the sky, nothing compared to yesterday. Yesterday we had the terrible fog, so we had a race with a 4-hour delay, but today everything's a different story. But it was an exciting race, that's for sure. The race we did see in the end. And the man who actually rocked the race was Sheldon van der Linde. He did an incredible job taking home the victory, and that also makes him the leader of the championship. So everything turned from yesterday. I mean, that's what the DTM is all about. Anything is possible and things change from now to then. And it's the second half of the season that started yesterday. So you can be absolutely certain that it's going to be an exciting second half of the season. We can't wait to get started with the qualifying, and surely Sheldon's going to push really hard. And let's see what it brings. So enjoy the qualifying, and here's your commentator.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Good morning, everybody. Welcome then along to the sunny, much sunnier Nürburgring. Chris Hartley here to talk you through 20 minutes of qualifying, which is coming up in just a few minutes' time. It's qualifying too, but it's our first qualifying session of the weekend because until 5:15 yesterday afternoon, we had absolutely nothing on tracks. Qualifying was abandoned. All the support qualifyings were abandoned. And it wasn't until, as Verena said, almost 4 hours after the race was due to take place that we finally were able to get the first race of the weekend underway for DTM yesterday. Still in foggy conditions, but thankfully alleviated from what it was. And it's a different day today. Absolutely beautiful blue skies. Sunglasses required, and best of all, we can actually see the track today. So cars headed out, and there is the uber unlucky Felipe Fraga, who was leading the race yesterday after a mega start from 6th on the grid. He got it to second place more or less straight away through the first sequence of corners, then snatched the lead of the race from Mirko Bortolotti, the championship leader, as he was yesterday. Before they had a good race-long battle, nose to tail for much of it before and after the pit stops. And then Mirko Bortolotti caught back up to Felipe Fraga and had a go at him going into the final turn at turn 11. Went to go up the inside, but didn't get far enough alongside. Hit a patch of damp and went into the sides of the Ferrari. Both cars taken out of contention. A spin to the inside for Bortolotti. He was stranded for a lap on the inside curb. Fraga sent into a spin and having to go the wrong way up the circuit to eventually rejoin well out of the order, and then eventually retiring from the race. So the top two out of contention in a major incident for the season, a big talking point, and who should come through to steal the race victory but this man, Sheldon van der Linde, was third. He was, in fairness, catching them up anyway, looking very racy in the Schubert Motorsport BMW, and having started 13th on the grid and slipped way down the order in the opening few laps of the race. His brother Kelvin van der Linde came through. He overtook his teammates on the same lap to get ahead of the driver that would eventually come home, Ricardo Feller, in third place, and passed him, and then of course got the 2 places after the 2 leaders went out of the race. So he went from 5th to 2nd in one lap, and it was an historic 1-2 for 2 South African drivers. The first time in DTM taking 1st and 2nd places on the podium, and 2 brothers getting their first double podium, their first 1-2 finish. So as you've seen, Sheldon van der Linde moving back into the championship lead. I saw Ron Rijkaard on the pit wall, which is the team manager for the Red Bull AF Corsa team. All smiles today, but he was not a happy bunny yesterday. Mirko Bortolotti, in absolute fairness to him, when he was interviewed by Verena just after the incident, fronted up and said, look, it was my fault. I made a mistake. I didn't mean to do it. I totally apologise to Felipe. And he said much the same to Scott Elkins, the race director, afterwards, but he has been given a 5-place grid penalty. So wherever Mirko qualifies in this session, you're going to add 5 places to his start position for the race. There were a couple of other penalties, but nothing really that affects today, because Laurens Vanthoor had a collision as well. He tried to overtake Maximilian Gutz there, went up the inside of him on the way into turn 3, but couldn't slow the car down in time and clipped the car ahead of both of them, which was René Rast. And then damage to his car, Laurens Vanthoor. He retired on the same lap. He did pick up a 5-second time penalty, but as I say, a non-finish anyway, so it didn't affect things. And Dev Gore, for his collision with Dev Schumacher, picked up a 5-second penalty in the race yesterday, as Maximilian Buch, who just missed out on the points yesterday, just outside the top 10, leads the field out onto the circuit for 20 minutes of qualifying to set the grid for what is going to be round 10 of DTM 2022. just news overnight as well on a BOP change, a couple of changes in relation to the weights of the cars, which is worth noting. The Audis have now got 30 kilograms of BOP ballast, so the Audis 5 kilograms heavier than they were yesterday. The Ferraris are 15 kilograms heavier than they were yesterday, with 40 kilograms of ballast, BOP ballast on board, and the Lamborghinis are 20 kilograms heavier than yesterday. So Mirko Bortolotti with a heavier car, 20 kilograms added on, plus of course he's got this 5-place grid penalty. So that is the way it is with the BOP. No changes for the BMWs, no change for the Porsches, and no change since the start of the weekend for the Mercedes. And also the final thing to bear in mind, although it does not affect qualifying, is that when we get to the race, the top 3 from yesterday have to carry success ballast. So 25 kilograms will be added success ballast to Sheldon van der Linde's car for the win yesterday. And we'll get 15 kilograms added to his brother's Audi, Kelvin, finishing second yesterday. And for finishing third, Ricardo Feller, we'll get 5 kilograms of success ballast added. But that is only for the race, not for qualifying. And it is worth noting, Sheldon van der Linde has won already this year with full success ballast on board, because he won both races at the Lausitzring. So on board with Mirko Bortolotti. Lamborghini still searching for that first race victory. Bortolotti likewise, and maybe that was in the back of his mind when he went for the move. Well, sure, if he had his time again, he'd try things a little bit differently, because effectively cost him potential 28 points that. He was, or maybe more, because he was in second place. He was on course for 18 points. He loses those, and, well, 19 really, because he got the fastest lap of the race, but you have to be in the top 10 to have that point, that bonus point, and he wasn't. So potential 19 points gone. Plus, he gave then that move, that incident, gave an extra 10 points to Sheldon van der Linde, who went from third to first. So a swing of 29 points, which in the context of this year's championship is pretty huge. Right, the car's still building up speed. There's Rolf Inischen there, back after missing the previous round at the Nürburgring through illness. So he's in amongst that group of cars, just building up the tyre temperatures now, building up the brake temperatures. See how many runs they can get at this in conditions that are more like what we had on Friday, but it is cooler than Friday in the free practice sessions, which were both held in the afternoon. So it is around about 23 degrees the track temperature, but the air temperature only 15 degrees. It's not that much warmer than yesterday, despite being pretty sunny. It was only 13 degrees yesterday. We're at about 20 degrees cooler than it was when they were all testing, or most of them were here testing last week. So there's the run through at turn 1, which is the first gear corner. They run wide there and into turn 2. Second gear they take. Norbert Haug, the former Mercedes boss, watching on. He was presenting some of the trophies yesterday at the end of the race. And René Rast rejoining him, going very slowly. Is that him trying to get track position, or has he had a moment? Just all hanging around, trying to find a bit of space on track, I think, before they go for it. For what it's worth, on Friday, the fastest driver that we saw was on the second session was Dennis Olsen. The Porsches looked really quick on Friday. They got absolutely zero out of the race yesterday. Dennis Olsen off in a collision. We had Lawrence Vantour, as we said, off in a collision. Thomas Priding damaged his splitter when he had a great start to go from 10th to 4th. So Porsches, all the promise they showed on Friday, a very frustrating day for all of the drivers yesterday, but today's a different day. They should be rapid. And Dennis Olsen was quickest in free practice 2. Mirko Bortolotti was quickest in free practice 1. The quickest lap we saw on Friday was a 1:26.326, but they should go quicker than that with fresher tyres on for this qualifying session. So Mirko Bortolotti sets the first time of note, really, with a 1:27.9, but Maximilian Buch in the Muka Motorsport Mercedes goes a bit quicker, 1:27.4, and then Sheldon van der Linde's first effort puts him top for now, but only briefly. Again, quicker and quicker, 1:27.3 for him. The first 1:26 time goes to Nico Müller, who was not a happy bunny yesterday after the contact with René Rast gave him damage to the car and put him out of the race with the right rear puncture. Nico dropping from 4th to 6th in the championship. Right, Marco Wittmann had set the absolute best second sector time, but that's just gone to David Schumacher with 21.7. The first sector takes in the run all the way down to the exit of turn 5, so it's pretty much half the lap, the first sector. The second sector takes in the Ravenel curve at turn 6, Bilstein at turn 7, Ad Van Boga, and then ends just before they get to the chicane, and that only takes about 21 seconds, and the last sector is the chicane and the final corner. So Nico Muller with the fastest time, 1:26.636, but it's all going to change. Everybody getting up to speed now on this third run through. Laurens Vanthoor has gone second in the Porsche, 1:26.728. Ricardo Feller, we've been watching, he's in the 1:26.7s as well, third for now. Thomas Preining fourth, 1:26.807. Remember, no qualifying yesterday, so everybody's starting in championship positions. Muller is on for a mega lap here. He's done the absolute best first sector, the absolute best second sector. He's already on provisional pole, but he's about to get, I think, into the low 1:26s with his lap. So Muller comes over the line, and it's a 1:26.4. So he improves his own time and extends his advantage at the top of the timesheets. 1:26.40 then for Nico Muller. Tommy Preining has gone second with a 1:26.444, 44 thousandths of a second behind in the Team Koos, Team Bernhard Porsche. Laurens Vanthoor third, Ricardo Feller in fourth place. But they're both just done personal best first sectors. Bortolotti is fifth, but remember he's got a 5-place grid penalty to be added on. Dev Gore going well at the moment was sixth, but Nick Cassidy in the Ferrari has just popped himself up into fourth place in the AlphaTauri AF Corsa machine. There are 3 drivers in the 1:26.7s now. And then Schumacher goes third quickest with a mega lap. Laurens Vanthoor, meanwhile, goes to the top of the times in the SSR Performance Porsche, 1:26.387. Ricardo Feller just lost out a little bit in the middle of the lap, but personal best sectors at the start and the end of the lap. But he remains in 6th place. So Laurens Vanthoor in the SSR Performance Porsche, 1:26.387 in the 92 car. He's only 13 thousandths of a second ahead of Nico Muller. Muller is only 44 thousandths of a second ahead of Tommy Preining, who is third. What can Dennis Olsen do? He goes across the line into the top of the times. So it is an SSR Performance Porsche 1-2 at the moment. Olsen and Vanthoor, they both failed to score yesterday, but as I say, both look very quick, particularly Olsen on Friday. Well, they are there, first and second. So the Norwegian to the top of the times. Nico Muller with a 1:26.4 again going through, 4:22. That's 2 quick laps. It was 22 thousandths behind his own personal best, though. So he didn't quite get 2 pure laps out of it. Didn't quite improve, but good effort nonetheless. Tommy Preining's had a 1:26.6 that time around. That's a couple of tenths slower than his previous lap. So they failed to improve, the pair of them, and they remain in third and fourth. David Schumacher, though, excellent effort, looking for his best qualifying so far with that 1:26.596, 5th place. Kelvin van der Linde has come into the top 6 as well, just ahead of his Abt Sportsline teammates, Ricardo Feller. So the pair of them were both on the podium yesterday, running 6th and 7th. Nick Cassidy's down to 8th. He's gone into the pits. Bortolotti 9th, Gore in 10th place. René Rast, who is third in the championship, is only 12th at the moment. He's gone into the pits. Anybody else running out of position? Maximilian Goetz, only 18th, and we finished 4th yesterday. So he's a bit down the order. Bortolotti has had a good first sector, but not as good as Dennis Olsen, who's a 43.88, is a mega first sector. Can he go even quicker? 1:26.239, yes is the answer. So he's now got the fastest 2 laps of the session. Thomas Preining's had a really good first sector, though. He's only 700ths down in the first sector with a 43.9, but I think he's going to abandon the lap. So it looks like you can definitely get 2 quick laps out of it, as Dennis Olsen has proven. So pretty much the halfway stage, 10 minutes 45 seconds left on the clock. Olsen and Vanthoor first and second for the SSR Performance Porsche team, and a replay of an understeery Lamborghini for Clement Schmidt, who was up in the top 3 in one of the practice sessions on Friday. Couldn't get the car turned in, used the escape road, but then had to turn back in through the gravel, but there should be no harm done, other than some gravel brought onto the circuit and a bit of cleaning up to do for the team. And this is right on the racket edge for Tommy Preining. Just let the car go a bit too wide, keen to get on the power. Maybe took a little bit too much curb, which be wary of, given the fact he damaged the splitter of the car yesterday in the race, which caused him to retire. So the Nürburgring race winner with one of the onboard cameras this weekend, 4th at the end of that part. So Olsen, Vanthoor and Preining make it 3 Porsches in the top 4. Nico Muller in 3rd place in amongst them, though. And Maximilian Buch is the first to go. He's the first to go out at the start of the session. He's the first to go out on track now. Lucas Auer has not yet put a proper lap in. He's running out of kilter with everybody else. We've seen this a couple of times this year. Mirko Bortolotti's done it a couple of times where they have just not got out for the first part of the session. It's a risk because you give yourself half the time to set a good lap. If you make a mistake or somebody gets in your way on the lap, time is short. But what he has got is the track completely to himself, thudding over the curbs there through 9 and 10 at the Vidal chicane, on the way into the Hyundai end curve, second gear corner, up through the gears already, third, fourth, and then he'll snatch fifth gear as he goes over the start-finish line. And what's this going to put Lucas Auer into? Fourth place, good lap. So Lugi, who started the weekend fifth in the championship, but a good start to the race yesterday, went from fifth up into second at one point in the early stages of the race and puts his lap in. But of course now his problem is he's trying to do another good lap here and he's got people coming out of the pits. That's the problem with running out of sync with everybody else. So definitely compromised his line on the way through turns 1 and 2, that, albeit Nick Cassidy and it was Clement Schmidt trying to get out of his way as best they could. And look how brutal it is over that inside curve through the second gear Vidal chicane, particularly that left-hand side. It's the quickest way through, but I don't think just the car's much good. So Auer puts himself as top Mercedes with that one lap, going into fourth place, pushes Preining down to fifth, Schumacher into sixth place currently. Dennis Olsen it is that is halfway through the session on for provisional pole, but lots can still change. He's had a front row start, he's had a second place finish this year as his best result in terms of qualifying. Dennis Olsen's 8th, and Lucas Auer pretty good despite the traffic through the first sector, very good through the second sector, absolute best. How far is he behind? He's only 16 thousandths of a second behind Muller in third, so he proves that he goes, in fact, above the Porsches as well with that lap, because the personal best in the final sector as well, 126.187, and it's working for him now, but of course, everybody else is going to come back out now and set more lap times. And he'll presumably have to come in when he have a very quick turnaround if he wants to get back out and do more laps. But it's worked so far. Lugi with a 126.187. He actually got his first ever pole position at this circuit in the DTM back in 2016. He was a winner here in 2017. He's had 3 poles at the circuit over the years. So he likes the Nürburgring, and he's looking in fine form on that lap. That was nicely done by the Austrian. Absolute best middle sector and personal best at the start and the end of the lap, and there was probably a bit more to come in that lap, you know, because he definitely got compromised his line at the start of the lap when the traffic was coming out of the pits. So excellent effort, puts him just over half a tenth clear of Olsen. Lucas Auer has had 1 pole position this year. That was at Lausitzring. In fact, in terms of qualifying, nobody's qualified on pole more than once this year. Mirko Bortolotti's had 2 poles, but of course yesterday's pole was by dint to the fact that he was the championship leader rather than fastest in qualifying. So Lugi's been very solid in qualifying this year. He's averaged 7th on the grid. The only driver that's averaged a better starting grid is Mirko Bortolotti, the driver 2nd in the championship. He's going for another lap here, so feels there's still some more life in the tyres. Waits for a gap in the traffic and then unleashes the power of the Mercedes 500 plus horsepower as he launches himself into another lap here. So interesting, thought he might pop in, have a quick change of tyres and get back out again, but Lugi's going for it once more with a clear track. Will it work? Can he get a 3rd quick lap out of it? Going into the final 5 minutes and 40 seconds of the session. Lucas Auer on provisional pole, Dennis Olsen 2nd, Laurens Vanthoor 3rd. Had a win for a Porsche driver this year. Who's Team Bernhard's machine of Tommy Preining last time out of the Nürburgring. But can we get a Porsche on pole position? Looking like it's going to be his best so far for Dennis Olsen, that's for sure, having had a best grid of 8th at the Nürburgring race 2. He's only averaged 13th on the grid so far this year. It's been the problem for the SSR Performance Porsche team. They've had good race pace. They've done lots of overtaking in the races. Laurens Vanthoor in particular, but he's going well as well. 3rd place at the moment for the Belgian driver. His best previous effort is 11th on the grid at Portimao right at the start of the season, and Laurens Vanthoor has only averaged 18th on the grid. So it's a big step up this for the SSR Performance team in terms of their qualifying. Lawrence Vantoura has gained 66 places in races so far from grid positions, more than anyone else. Right, Hours at it again, even better in the first sector, absolute best second sector, and improves again, 126.126 seconds. Max Boot with a really good first sector as well. This is going to put him well up into the top 6, I would say, Max Boot, when we see him come across the line. As long as he gets through this last corner, fine. But now increasing his gap now to just over 1/10 of a second. That'll probably be it for him now in terms of laps. He just has to sit back and see if anybody can better his time. I don't think he'll get any more laps out of the tyres. Where can Max Boot go? Third place. Fantastic effort. 126.32. So it's Mercedes, Porsche on the first 2 rows of the grid as it stands. Hours first, Olsen second, Boot in third, Vantoura in fourth, Moller fifth, Preining in 6th place. And then we've got Schumacher 7th, Kelvin van der Linde 8th, Ricardo Feller 9th, Nick Cassidy 10th, Sheldon van der Linde, yesterday's race winner, is only 17th at the moment. But he's just done 2 personal best sectors, but they were only okay, they weren't great. The second sector was pretty good actually, but he was 3/10 down in the first sector. And it's oh so tight, but it should get him up into the top 10 this lap. Wait for him to come through and over the line. He goes past the commentary box. No, loses out in the last sector. He's still only 17th. Really good race pace in that car yesterday, but different track conditions, pretty slippery. And the BMWs weren't all that on Friday in proper dry conditions. Right, Nick Cassidy's had a good first sector. Under 44 seconds is a really good first sector as Schumacher goes 8th. Maintains that top 10 position, and Cassidy goes 3rd with 3 personal best sector times. So the Ferrari 3rd now, finished 7th in the race yesterday, his best so far in DTM. And Lawrence Vantoura, a 43.92. Michael Grenier, even quicker through the first sector, 43.92. Max Boot, 43.93. He's pushing hard again and goes onto the front row of the grid. So second place by just over 1/10 of a second. It's now a Mercedes 1-2. They got ahead of the Porsches. You've got the Ferrari of Nick Cassidy in the mix as well. But absolute best first sector for Tommy Preining. 43.76 seconds is nearly 2/10 up in the first sector alone. Philippe Eng's had a good one as well. Michael Grenier has gone 5th with his lap. Lawrence Vantoura goes 3rd. And we've also got Marco Wittmann with the best of all middle sector. And a pretty good first sector, a personal best. Sheldon van der Linde, likewise, he's on his best lap of the session so far. Tommy Preining, though, has got a chance here of a front row start as Marco Wittmann puts the BMW 2nd on the grid. Thomas Preining of the Porsche is coming soon, though. He comes out of the last corner, heads over the line. Is it going to be pole? No, Sheldon van der Linde's done it just in front of him. Preining goes 2nd. And Mirko Bortolotti has done the absolute best first sector, but he's got a 5-place grid penalty, remember. So Sheldon van der Linde leaving it late. Less than 2 minutes to go, but just ahead of Tommy Preining. And personal best sectors, all of them, no absolute best, but it was enough as a whole to give him provisional pole position by just 64 thousandths of a second. All right, Bortolotti is about 7 or 8 seconds away. He's coming into the last corner. Dennis Olsen puts himself back onto the front row of the grid, despite losing out a little bit on the final sector. Bortolotti goes 4th, but that'll only put him 9th on the grid with the penalty. And Kelvin van der Linde's on a good charge as well. Not the absolute best first sector, but a 43.85 is very, very good. And slightly quicker than him through the second sector was Fraga. So the Ferrari's coming as well. He goes 8th, but he's got time for another lap. Crosses the line with 54 seconds to go. Kelvin van der Linde doesn't improve and stays well down the order in 16th place. Well, Vinicius had a decent first and second sector as well. Even quicker than René Rast through the first sector, and even quicker than both of them, Lucas Stoltz. 43.89. And Stoltz, if he keeps this going, he's going to threaten for a top 6 on the grid here. Rolf finishing losing out in that last sector. It's oh so tight. We had 26 cars covered by 7/10 of a second in free practice. Van der Linde, the quickest of all, but it's not over yet. Others are improving. René Rast goes 11th with that time. Nick Cassidy started the lap well, but has faded a little bit in the middle. And Lucas Stotz's lap, which started very well, has indeed put him into the top 6 with 5th place so far. Mirko Bortolotti 2nd in the championship. Wherever he qualifies, he'll start 5 places lower after that incident yesterday, judged to have caused the collision. The flag is now out of the session. Kelvin van der Linde's leaving this late for a good grid, but he's had a very, very good first sector. 43.75, only a tenth down on the absolute best. He's more or less matched everybody through the second sector. So Kelvin van der Linde 18th at the moment, but he's going to rocket up the order as Maximilian Gutz goes 5th quickest right at the end of the session on his final push lap. But Kelvin is about to come through and over the line. The Audi passes the commentary box window and he goes second. Kelvin van der Linde second, and would you believe it? After finishing first and second in the race yesterday, the van der Linde brothers are first and second in qualifying at exactly the same order. Sheldon ahead of Kelvin, and it was only by 10 thousandths of a second in the end. They are joined at the hip in more ways than one, those two. Fantastic effort. Loads of pressure on Kelvin because he was 18th? As the flag was waving, but he did it on his very last roll of the dice. Roll finishes his session in 19th place. As the last few cars run through, and Philipp Eng improves and gets himself into the top 6 right at the end. Tommy Preining still out there, but the lap is not as quick as he's gone before. Nico Müller, provisional pole earlier on in the session. He's going to wind up out of the top 10. Lukas Stoltz doesn't improve at the end, so he stays in 8th place. And what a session that was. So Sheldon van der Linde, well, he left it late, 2 minutes to go, and he was well down the order in 17th place. But not as late as his brother Kelvin, who literally had one chance to get that right. And not for the first time, Kelvin withstands the pressure, uses all that experience, stays cool, and gets the job done. Wow, can the weekend get any better for this pair? First and second in the race, first and second in qualifying. There's only one thing to do this afternoon, isn't there? So Sheldon van der Linde usefully picks up 3 championship points for that as well. They all are going to count this season because it's so tight in the championship. So that'll move him on to 108 points. And having started the day with a 16-point championship lead, he's now got a 19-point championship lead over Mirko Bortolotti. He qualified 4th, but will start the race 9th due to his grid penalty. So Sheldon van der Linde fastest, Kelvin van der Linde second, and Dennis Olsen with his best qualifying so far in the DTM in 3rd place in the SSR Performance Porsche. Mirko Bortolotti qualifies 4th, but will be starting 9th on the grid. That means Tommy Preining will start 4th on the grid, which is where he was running before the car retired yesterday. 6th quickest in the session was Philipp Eng, 7th was Maximilian Gutz, 8th Lukas Stoltz, 9th Laurens Vanthoor, and 10th place Lucas Auer, who tried something different in that session, and it worked to a point. He put in the 3 quickest laps at the time. With 5 or 6 minutes to go, though, others came out, did more laps, and he slipped back to 10th place in the end. But how tight was that? Less than 2 tenths of a second covering the top 13. And between Lucas Auer, Nico Müller, Marco Wittmann and Michael Grenier, those 4 drivers, 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th, you had the grand total of 17 thousandths of a second. Ridiculously close. So we'll have a BMW Schubert Motorsport, the team points leaders at the moment, on pole position with Sheldon van der Linde. An apt Sportsline Audi of Kelvin van der Linde will line up second. And finally, he gets a good qualifying position, Kelvin. His best result so far coming yesterday in the race. That first podium of the year in 2nd place. Had to start the race from his championship position, which he didn't like, but has come flying through now. Super slow-mos then of our top 3 drivers. Dennis Olsen, 3rd quickest, but only 28 thousandths of a second slower than the pole sitter. And actually, his time was matched by Mirko Bortolotti to the thousandth of a second. 2nd place to Kelvin van der Linde. And Sheldon van der Linde's perfect weekend continues. The win yesterday, 3 points, and pole position today, and an extended championship lead. So for Sheldon van der Linde, that's going to be his 2nd pole of the year. He's the first driver to genuinely qualify on pole twice this year. It's going to be his 4th at first row start. He's had 2 second-place starts as well at the Lausitzring and, of course, yesterday. And for Kelvin van der Linde, it is his 2nd appearance on the front row of the grid this year. He was on pole position at the Norris Ring, and he'll start 2nd here. And for Dennis Olsen, the first time experiencing this in qualifying, a top 3 finish. And there he is on the left, looking very cool, calm and collected, and just 64 thousandths of a second between the top 5 in that session. It was unbelievably close, and that is the closest gap we've had in qualifying this year. The previous closest was in the first qualifying session of the year at Portimao, when there was just 11 thousandths of a second between the top two. But 10 thousandths of a second is the new closest gap that we've had in this qualifying year. So let's get some reaction down in the pit lane with Verena.
And now I'm here with Sheldon van der Linde and with Calvin van der Linde, and this is pretty impressive. I mean, after yesterday's amazing race, look at you guys now standing here in qualifying, you in P1 in pole position. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, you know, in life they say when it rains it pours, and I think it's really like that this weekend. Yeah, unbelievable. I still can't believe it because, to be honest, the car was under series this morning, so I didn't really... I wasn't really a fan of the balance, but somehow the lap time came, and in the last lap the car just got better and better, and somehow I managed to put it through right in the last minute. So yeah, great execution by the boys again. The release times were perfect, didn't have any traffic. Had a small slipstream as well from one of the other BMWs, so thanks for that. Definitely helped me as well, so yeah, thanks a lot.
Absolutely amazing. And Calvin, I mean, after your first half of the season where you were not too lucky, now it's just really going really well, so you've got to be thrilled with P2.
Yeah, thanks to the team. You know, they worked very hard on my car in the off-season. They used the time to really see where we can get it better, and you know, now we're just catching our stride, and you can see that in the results. That said, though, I mean, my brother's got to give me a chance to win today, so, you know, like I was 100th in qualifying. Come on, bro, we got to make a deal here, you know. But yeah, let's see. I'm really excited. At 100th, I made a small mistake in the last corner, so I'm a bit annoyed about that. But other than that, I think it's going to be a great front row.
So Sheldon, let me guess, you're not going to give him a chance, and it's going to be a very interesting battle, am I right?
No, obviously not. I mean, we're both here fighting for our own P1. Obviously, Calvin wants to win from yesterday. So obviously we have the weight in the car today, so we have to be realistic as well, but obviously I'm going to try and stay there for as long as possible. I know he's going to make my life very hard, so let's see how that goes, but I'm looking forward to the race. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah, we certainly are looking forward to it as well. Thank you so much, and here's your commentator.
Thanks very much, Verena. Yeah, happy family at the moment, aren't they? Although there'll be a slight tension, I suspect, back home in South Africa with mum and dad and all the family and friends watching when they line up alongside each other into that tight first corner. That's going to be a bit stressful for all the van der Lindes and their supporters, I suspect, going into turn one. But it has been the perfect weekend for them so far. It's great to see Kelvin back up there, isn't it, as well, after a really tricky start to the season. My fear about the Ferrari's base in the dry, I'm afraid, seems to have proven true. And remember, they have had extra ballast on the cars today, but they weren't particularly quick on Friday. And Felipe Fraga, after leading the race yesterday in slippy conditions with a mega drive, 16th place he's qualified. Nick Cassidy was up there for a while, but he's back in 19th place. So Ferraris will work to do. They've got more ballast on board, as I said, than they had yesterday with the BOP. Lamborghini's got more BOP on board as well. So Bortolotti with a bit of a salvage job here from what's going to be 9th on the grid once his 5-place grid penalty is applied. But an incredibly close session, that, with 87 thousandths of a second between the top six. Make sure you join us this afternoon for what promises to be a thriller. From me in the commentary box, then, Chris Hartley, it's goodbye for now, and I'll hand you back to Verena in the pit lane.
So after yesterday's crazy race, today starting off really well. Dennis Olsen for you, starting in P3 today in the race. So it was a good qualifying for you. What are you going to make out of it?
Yeah, I mean, the car was really nice to drive today. You know, yesterday I was pretty pissed, to be honest. But it's nice to turn it around and have a nice qualifying today. The team has done a great job preparing the car because it wasn't really looking too good yesterday. But the car is now perfect and we're ready to race.
So we're really excited, looking forward to a fantastic race. Thank you so much, Dennis. Best of luck for the race later on. And you certainly don't want to miss the race later on because it's going to be exciting, that's for sure. All right, so here are the highlights. Enjoy and see you later for an exciting race.